It's Sunday afternoon, June 10th, 2007, and I'm standing on a trail in the Chippewa Woods Forest Preserve in Des Plaines, Illinois, just a mile or so northeast of O'Hare Airport. You hear that constant, high-pitched hissing noise in the background? It's so loud it almost seems deafening, and I wonder if it's going to leave a ringing in my ears. No, it's not a 747 ready for takeoff. Just a few short weeks ago, the most prominent sounds you'd hear here were birds chirping, a nearby babbling brook, maybe some crickets, distant traffic, and jets overhead. This noise hasn't been heard here on such a scale in quite a few years, 17 to be exact, and in just a few weeks, it won't be heard here again for another 17. This is the sound of cicadas, millions of insects singing their song, an elaborate symphony of percussion. This year, 2007, marks the return of the 17-year swarm of the Magus cicada to most of the Midwest, known to the biologists and cicada enthusiasts under the austere moniker of Brood 13. 17 years ago, in early July, hundreds of billions of tiny cicada grubs hatched and burrowed down into the earth to hang out, sucking on tree roots. Well, now they're back, a lot bigger, and they mean business, of an adult nature. After 17 years of waiting underground, the surviving troopers have dug their way out, shed their hard shell, and are flitting about singing a song in hopes of attracting a mate. The noise you hear is their mating call. I'm in the midst of an insect orgy here. They make that sound by vibrating little tymbals on the side of their abdomens. Actually, only the males do this singing, so magnify the sound by 2, and that's how many cicadas we got here. Now, why is it that they come out every 17 years? Well, one of the more prominent theories sounds a little too much like folklore to me, though. It says that particular species of cicadas have an emergence cycle in the high prime numbers 13 and 17 as a survival mechanism. The idea being that no predator of the cicada is likely to adapt its emergence cycle to synchronize with the cicada. It should come as no surprise that an article in the magazine The Economist manages to express this cicada emergence survival theory best, and I quote, "It is no coincidence that the span of each brood cycle is a prime number of years. If a brood were to emerge in cycles divisible by a smaller number, then local predators could reap rewards by synchronizing their own shorter cycles with one of the divisors. Of course, it's simple economics." But you may be wondering about the buzzing noise you swear you hear every year, and you're probably right. There is such a thing as annual cicadas. In fact, the periodical cicadas that emerge in intervals greater than 1 year exist only in the eastern half of the United States, but annual cicadas live on every continent except Antarctica. Annual cicadas are often called dog day cicadas, referring to the dog days of summer, the hottest days of summer in the northern hemisphere, around July to early September. The term dog days actually derives from the dog star, Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. Well, except for the sun, of course. The Latin Sirius comes from the Greek serios, meaning glowing or scorcher, referring to the extra heat its annual appearance seems to bring. But since Roman times, it's commonly been called the dog star, since it's the major star of the constellation Canis Major, Canis Major, the big dog. The Egyptians placed particular significance on Sirius, the Egyptian Sopdet, or Sothis when translated into Greek. The Egyptians kept a close lookout for the first annual appearance of Sothis, its heliacal rising, the first morning of the year when you could just barely make it out in the eastern horizon, only moments before the sun begins to rise and wash out any other stars in the sky. The problem was, the Egyptians reckoned a 365-day year, so every year the rising of Sirius got nudged back a quarter day and some change. So it took a long time before the rising of Sirius coincided again with the start of the 365-day year. About 1,460 years. This span of time is the so-called Sothic cycle. Phew, clear as mud, huh? Good thing you can rewind and hear that part again. But I'll let you in on a little secret. Sirius, the dog star, the brightest star in the sky, it's a scam. It's actually a binary star, 2 stars, Sirius A and Sirius B. No, I'm serious. Ha! Over the past couple months, folks in the Midwest have been all abuzz about cicadas. The media's been churning out story after story on crazy cicada enthusiasm. The Ravinia Festival, the annual music festival just north of Chicago, actually moved some outdoor concerts inside, and even rescheduled the performances of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra so they wouldn't have to compete with the din of the cicadas. And some adventurous folk have even been serving up recipes on crispy batter-fried cicada tempura, soft-shelled cicada bites, and hey, why stop at entrees? Anyone care for a chocolate chip cicada cookie? Of course, less discriminating palates needn't waste time with preparation. Birds, squirrels, raccoons, fish, and even the neighbor's dog have been taking up knife and fork to partake in this copious all-you-can-eat buffet. And getting back to cicada economics, safety in numbers is a much more practical means of survival of the species. And numbers we've got when you're talking cicadas. They call that predator satiation, flooding the market with supply to curb demand through overeating. Of course, numbers, as in sheer quantity, are a tactic no natural predator can compete with in the case of the cicada. What with their numbers being estimated at 2 to 3 billion in Brood 13 alone, prime numbers, eat your heart out. But the enthusiasm and fascination for cicadas is nothing new to humanity. The fascination stretches far back to the earliest of human civilizations. The collection of Chinese jade figurines at the Art Institute of Chicago contains some of the most ancient art objects in the museum. The Art Institute's Sun and Shine collection of over 800 Chinese jades includes a wide array of different figural forms and designs, some even dating to about 3000 BC. Most of these jades functioned as preservation jades, offering physical or spiritual protection when placed on and alongside a body in a wealthy person's tomb from the Neolithic period, Shang and Zhou dynasties, and beyond. Some jades were even placed inside the body, specifically within the mouth of the deceased, and even more specifically in the case of jade cicadas. Here we see a few examples from the later Han Dynasty, specifically the Eastern Han Dynasty, around AD 9 to 220. Although, here's a little secret, the two on the right, they're actually modern. The ancient Chinese considered jade in general to have a sort of life-preserving or longevity property, and cicadas were regularly associated with rebirth, regeneration, and immortality, and a symbol of continuity between the generations. These associations, of course, likely arose from the observations of cicadas emerging very punctually in the same locations year after year. Don't forget, periodical cicadas live only in the eastern U.S. And here's a remarkably realistic 3D jade cicada from the Shang or Western Zhou dynasty around the 13th to 11th century BC. Jade is a particularly interesting material. Actually, the term jade was used by the ancient Chinese to refer to a couple different types of stone, jadeite and nephrite, and even other stones of similar qualities. And it took some serious elbow grease to carve jade. Well, it wasn't so much carve as it was meticulously ground down with a lot of effort, skill, and determination using drills and some sort of abrasive like quartz and water.